It's extremely hard to start an agriculture operation because you got to do it with other avenues of income. But we knew that this was an industry that we needed to raise our kids in. My wife and I started running P Cattle Company 5 years ago.
We started our operation with 1 trailer load of cattle, and over the past 5 years, we have grown that to well over 10 times its size. I think when the fire struck, we had right at 113 head, and in a matter of minutes, or really honestly seconds, it was wiped down.
The Smokehouse Creek Fire burned the largest fire in Texas history, February the 27th, 2024. Everything through here was burned. As you can still see from the top of the hills up there, these pastures were all gone. This was all black. The grass is covered and the weeds have covered, but this was all black. The fire was coming from the west and it was as high as the sky. All you could see is red, a red glow. You could see the flames, but long before the flames ever got somewhere, the fire was being pushed. It was like it exploded and caught the grass on fire, whatever was in its path.
It wasn't looking good because when that wind's out of the west and got fire southwest, it's gonna get you. It's our life here, and if you don't take care of it, you don't have it.
Our calving date was March 1, and I was just monitoring it like crazy and said, Drew, well, you gotta go, you gotta go.
As I go down Highway 33 to get to where the cows were, there were some fire trucks pulled over on the side of the road. And I stopped in to see if they needed some water or something and wanted to get an update on kind of how everything was. And they told me right then, they said, son, where are you going? And I was like, well, my cows are down this road. And he said, well, you got about 30 minutes and you better start getting out of here. So at that point in time, the plans had completely changed. Like there was no hauling stuff out of there.
Canadian was just isolated in the fire. So I was removing people from their residences because life became a priority then.
Well, since we have been through a fire before, it's one of those things, you know, it's serious. And when they came in and told me that my husband wanted me to leave, get out of here, and take a few things with you, well, that's something I had never thought of. And I was just kind of grabbing a few things, and Haley and her husband, David, came up and they were trying to push me a little bit, you know, hurry up, hurry up. So I got out, and then of course they stayed in it.
David, my husband, was on the back of the feed pickup and I was driving it, and he was spraying it with a hose, and I would just drive right beside the line of fire, and David would just try to get out as much as he can, and then oftentimes he'd have to sling that water out further so the fire wouldn't go underneath me, and we just were going as much as we could until the water ran out, and then we'd go back to some tanks that Dad has, and we'd go refill, and we'd just hit it again. The wind would not stop. It was just creeping south the entire time. We just had started calving season, having all those babies out, and we didn't know where they were, and the mamas weren't coming in. And if we could just get them in closer where we knew it was shorter, we could maybe at least protect them better. Try to give them a fighting chance.
So I tried to go to each pasture and find what I thought was the safest spot for them and feed the cows in those places. And it's tough to think of what you're supposed to do in those situations when you got a split minute and a 3 days worth of work that you got to put into 30 minutes. Got 2 phone calls from 2 people I respect quite a bit, and they said, when it gets there, you better get out because this thing is too big for you to try to be a hero. I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, you know, so I hated to do it. I hated to leave them there, but looking back, that was the right decision. That was hard to make at the time, but that was the right move.
Through the night, I didn't sleep at all. I just knew, you know, by the magnitude of it, that nothing was gonna be left.
I left here about 4 o'clock in the morning to where I could be up there when the sun was there. And
it was a lot just to see what you saw. You know, we raised Hereford cattle, but their skin was so burned that you couldn't even tell just for the hurt and the suffering of the mama cows, you know, they were already in their worst state, that we had to do what was best for them, and it was extremely difficult. We lost nearly all of our registered Hereford herd, which is where we did our primary focus. And I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that, like, if we were gonna get out, like, here's our time, you know, we're back down to nothing.
When you go through things like that, you know you need something, but you don't know what you need. And it's hard to ask people for stuff. You know, it's hard for me. It's hard to do that, but we were calving. I mean, the ones that survived, they were due to calve that day. So we knew we had to get them out of there. My neighbor over here, he has Hughes trailers, Joe Hughes, and I made a phone call and said, there's some cows that survived. I said, I don't know how many, but I'm gonna need some trailers. And by the time we got them put together, we had more Hughes trailers than we had cows to put in them. So we're very thankful for him, and all the people that showed up to help was just pretty humbling. And people we didn't even know. I didn't even know who they were.
We were overwhelmed with volunteers after the fire, but it's good to see when people are down the help that comes out. It's very tough to recover without the help of others.
Really, it's the people that came together that when we didn't even know which way to go. I mean, thank goodness for our neighbors that just came in and started pointing directions and whatnot, and the people showing up with hay. And TSCRA, they didn't even stop with a blink of an eye and arrange this disaster fund that I think was up and running within a week's time span.
The funds gathered for this through the Cattle Raisers Relief Fund was approximately $2.5 million that was distributed to the ranches and the people in need in the Texas Panhandle and Western Oklahoma. We're here to help people in their time of need.
The association blessed us because I know those people really understand what we're going through. They've been through it too. I don't know if I have the words for my appreciation for how much it truly does mean to be able to help Mom and Dad and be able to help get this place back up, because Dad wants to keep it going for generations. That's just a huge relief. It's like a peace of mind, being able to know that's not something else we're gonna have to absorb. So we appreciate that deeply.
It's amazing what the people brought in. They even brought cake in on the pallets, which I'm still feeding out of it today. It's a blessing for what came our way.
Seeing that monetary donation of the disaster relief that TSCRA had put together and to open up that check was, honestly, it brought me to tears, and it was very, very humbling to know that they were here to help us get through it.
When people start stepping forward like that, it lets you know that things are gonna be all right, that, you know, your health and your life and your safety is the most important thing, and everything else can be built back. There's a bull in there that I don't know if God intended us to have him or not, but he's the one that was born on the fire patch. We call him Fireball. And we think he's pretty special, so we'll see. Going through this experience, like, there's no question, if you're involved in agriculture in Texas, you need to be part of this organization.
People like the Disaster Relief Fund that said, we're here for you in our darkest days, gave us that light and that hope that our grit and resilience that got us to where we were today, that we could do it again.